Hello. We're on my bed. I'm going to talk for a minute. When I first started YouTube, I was making one video a week, and it was challenging, it was exhausting, but overall I think it was a very good learning experience. It taught me that I had to find my own way into creative nonfiction writing like these essays. Because writing like reviews and retrospectives like is common on YouTube just isn't really how I interact with media. And that's really what I wanted to capture was like how my brain rotates media around like inside my head. I stated a goal to myself after like my 8th or 9th video. I wanted to make a long form piece of a video essay about my thoughts while playing various games. A movie, I guess I would call it, comprised of smaller bits, smaller video essays, all sort of stitched together to make one big cohesive thing. In my head, it was just called Playing Games. This is that video. What you're watching is a collection of some of my older video essays all about video games, interspersed with some director's commentary. This is an experiment, a test, I guess you could call it. This is the kind of thing that if people are into it, if it's received, decently, then I can put the work and effort into doing something like this from the ground up, like with original stuff, which is like really exciting for me, but it is like a monumental task to make a movie. Even making video essays has become a lot more difficult for me just because of time constraints and my other work that I have to do. So sit back, relax, and even maybe put this on when you're going to sleep and listen as I babble about video games. Okay, here we go. The Elden Ring video was released May 16th, 2022. It was the first video that I made after the alt-right video, which sort of blew up and got me a lot of like negative attention from certain groups of people. It is still my most viewed video, but that video has led to a lot of like emotional distress just from like death threats and other things like that. I think this Elden Ring video is probably one of my favorites and one of the best that I've done, but I do wish it was like a little shorter. Like I could probably cut like 2 minutes out of it, I feel like, and it would be quicker and more concise. I'm riding torrent up a slope of graves, dotted with snails making their homes in giant skulls, surrounded by the golden plains of Altus Plateau, and I think to myself, I'll never play this game again. I'm in my apartment, alone as my partner had to work. I'm enjoying a soda, a Coke Zero, full on lunch and listening to Action Button's video on Tokimeki Memorial. And he's talking about high school, and I'm thinking to myself, I'll never play this game again. It's been amazing. The first game in ages that I've sunk so much time into. But still, and I don't even know why, but I'll never play it again. I open the map and plot my next course, placing down markers in the edges and grooves of the sprawling illustrated map, finding the spots that feel so designed. I don't know what will be there. It's a multiple choice question. Giant crab, dungeon, or giant bear. But I know that it's the only time I'll see it. I won't return here. I've come so far, combed slowly through each crack and crevice of Liurnia, Caelid, and Limgrave, and I am unlikely to retread this ground. Each step is the last. The map falls into blackness behind me. I'm listening to Action Button, and he's talking about high school and nostalgia and wanting to relive, and I'm just thinking about Limgrave. It's been 100 hours of game, stretching to feel like a lifetime of play. The last single-player game to lock me in this solitude was an early pandemic depression playthrough of Persona 5. I was a different person then, and a different person back when I first stepped foot into Limgrave. Back when I walked left and stayed walking for hours before finding the horse creature I ride now. I cleared the beach, the icy footprints, the troll, the cave, found the Church of Dragon Communion, and felt very proud of myself. So many little stories that are lost to memory, fudging and blending like strokes of dried paint, congealing into a mass that slides into my brain alongside memories from that Persona playthrough. Despite how long ago that playthrough was, and maybe even because the pandemic has flattened time into before and during, both the beginnings of Limgrave and Persona 5 might as well have been happening at the same time. And as Action Button talks about reliving high school, I too begin to think of awkward dates and being cringe. And it feels so true, though I cannot prove it. I do not have an X-ray machine or any other sort of brain scan imaging hardware, but those memories of Limgrave are living in the same part of my brain as those memories of high school. The distance from Limgrave to this spot on the Altus Plateau was so great that I became nostalgic for it. The kind of nostalgia that you feel in your nose. The memory of the first catacomb cat gargoyle thing is stuck right next to the smell of chlorine from the city pool back in southern Illinois. It was the middle of summer, and I fell backwards off the diving board. I stared up at the sun through the waves of water, unsure if I was awake or dreaming. I'll never play this game again, I think. I can't. And the next 20 hours I will explore probably the most well-designed section of any FromSoft game in the Leyendell capital. But right now, in this moment, I know I can never play this game again. And it's not necessarily a condemnation, nor is it a compliment. I just feel it in my chest as a natural occurrence. The same sensation that comes after you start calling your new place home, replacing whatever place came before it. There's no loss, and there's nothing to gain, just something unquantifiable, changing and becoming known. There are pieces of art that can never be experienced the same after a first viewing. I'm Your Father, I See Dead People, Play Outer Wilds, things that get recontextualized and change based on experiencing them. If you know Brad Pitt isn't real, then you gotta watch again and see all the little tiny things you didn't notice. But I traveled all of Limgrave. I cleared the Weeping Peninsula, even the little caves full of nothings. And the game wasn't recontextualized in my head. It was become solid, defined and rigid, like the map itself, filled and colored and cleared, left blank now in my wake. To tread those grounds again would be equal to sitting in the sandbox with my childhood friend Paul. We haven't talked since I moved away from that southern Illinois town 20 years ago. I was 9, several different people ago on a cellular level. This is the first time a game has built emotional distance, as well as, or maybe even better than, it built physical distance. And there's a lot of physical distance. I'm riding now through a new place, and I have to be 3/4 of the way through the entirety of this experience. I'm seeing enemies and tombs and trolls, the same things I saw back then in the sandbox. These repeating patterns, repeating halls, gargoyle goblins trying to kill me, rune bears that I still refuse to face. This repetition of assets, of encounters, is growing this emotional canyon between where I started and where I am now. Whenever I move into a new place, it takes me time to build my routine. The path I'll take for walks, the place I'll go for groceries, and it's always those routines that I feel nostalgic for later on, after I've moved away and have to restart the process again. Right now, I miss walking around the park near my old place. There was a big curve of gravel and sand that wrapped around baseball diamonds and a long lakeshore drive. It went to a bridge that crossed the highway and led to the beach. I'm remembering the beach in Limgrave and the merchant underneath the canopy of rock. He'll be there if I go back, but I won't. Remembering him isn't the point. I've seen him in so many other places, tucked into alcoves in the underground, hidden behind the brush in the woods. These merchants, like the dungeons, are repeated over hours and hours. They, along with the dungeons and the monsters and the NPCs and the creatures and everything, are collectively working together to build a new routine laid over my hours of play, a simulacrum of living. I'm riding towards Leyendell, and I know I'll never play this game ever again because I'm different. Or it's more appropriate to say I will be different. When it's done, I mean. I'm changing now, hanging in liminality, and something about this moment right now has made it all so visible.
Completing the rest of the game is now a compulsion. The time remaining a sure thing, already checked and stamped and sent off to the factory. The clock draped over me and weighing me down until I decide to shed it. Elden Ring is now a curse that must be lifted. I will not complete it because I enjoy it, but because of what it's done to me. What it is doing to me. It has put me into this new routine, completely dominating my every waking moment. It has given me a new definition of home and then pulled me so far from it. It has wormed its way into my thoughts and my being, and here, not at the end of the game, not several months later from the experience, I am already growing nostalgic for what came before. These thoughts don't make me sad. I don't hold this against Elden Ring, but I don't feel much of anything about Elden Ring. I went through the excitement, the enchantment, the disbelief as the map unfolded at least 2 more times than I thought was possible. But the future is now predetermined, and that colors it gray. I feel as if I need to work to love in a way that came so naturally 50 hours ago. But the game doesn't hold the comfort of other such predetermined things. Despite the amount of times I need to walk to Target for groceries, I will inevitably return home with McDonald's as a little treat. Elden Ring, though, will not be there for me at the end of this journey. It will go. I don't know what to call this feeling beyond disenchantment. I think the best thing that sums it up is that right now, as I travel, I'm wanting to go back to Dark Souls 2. It's before I get into Landell Capital, and I have this sudden urge to boot up and go back to Drangleic Castle, to walk those halls again, to experience one of my favorite dungeons in video gaming. Unlike Elden Ring, Drangleic Castle is something that I look forward to going back to. Even to the point that it is invading my thoughts now, in the middle of what might be considered one of the best open-world games ever created. I've cleared my Altus Plateau map, and I'm heading to the capital now. Action Button is recounting a playthrough of a game I'll never be able to experience firsthand. There's still at least 20 hours to go before the end. I don't feel happy. I don't feel sad. All I feel is nostalgic.
The Grand Theft Auto 3 video was released December 31st, 2021. I made it after getting sort of sucked into playing it on my Switch, which was quite the experience and definitely shaded a lot of my thoughts of the game. Because what I realized while playing, and what I sort of talk about in the video, is that it is one of the few video game worlds that is extremely hostile to the person playing it. And I think some of that is like the limitations of the time, but I do think a lot of it is purposeful. I think the width of the roads, for instance, is purposefully designed to make it hard to do the things that you want and need to do in missions, and just the way that everything is sort of piled on top of each other to make exploring this world and being alive in this world difficult made me think about a lot of things. As you'll see in the video.
On how to do carjackings, and one of the kids said we played the game by day and we lived the game by night. It's a murder simulator. People played Grand Theft Auto 3, hopped in their truck, ran over a man they didn't even know, went home and started playing the game. They decided that the game was simply, that murder was an extension of the game.
I'm a rabbit in these Liberty City streets. I am bank robber, criminal, convict. I am escaping into a new world without choice. I am Fiverr, strapped for cash and looking for the American dream. My world, violent. Everything in Liberty City wants me dead. Rabid dogs at every turn, vicious cats with hooked claws, and even my own, hidden in warrens so twisted and different from what I could consider home that they become hostile, totalitarian in their nature, threatening to hold me close until death.
All the violence is still the same, but when you're looking at a guy just shoot another guy, that guy keeling over, it just it's a much more grim, realistic game.
Everything in Liberty City wants me dead. My jobs are easy enough. Just drive back and forth, point A to point B. Deliver a package, pick up a sex worker, visit another like me who may become friend or foe. But my tools for doing so cause nothing but destruction. To hold down the trigger at all is the speed, which is illegal. The law is impossible to uphold. And to speed is to endanger myself. These streets weren't made for me. They were made for drones to follow pathing. They leave tiny gaps between themselves and dare me to squeeze through. No matter how many times I try, I cannot. The light turns green and a car makes a turn, and of course I'm speeding down the road, praying incoming traffic doesn't materialize before me, because my timer is running down, and if I don't make it, I don't get paid. And unlike all the folks walking the sidewalks, I can't go into the local gas station and get a real job. I don't have the option of a 401k, cushy office space, or even the demoralizing grind of physical labor. I'm a rabbit. All I can do is run. So the light turns green and the car makes the turn and I T-bone it. I don't die, but my car is beat to shit, so it catches fire and I'm slow to get out. The explosion nearly wastes me. Blow it up! Blow it up! I can't afford that. Like literally, the fines just keep piling up. It's strange that all these lives, my own included, and the laws that govern them all have a price tag. I think about the parking ticket I got for leaving my car at work overnight several years ago. The cop saw where my car was at, saw the snow piling up around it, knows that a factory job barely pays minimum wage, and slaps me with a ticket that takes a week to pay. He stole my life 1 cent at a time. The only time I'm not dying is when I can turn the radio on and get good music. There's and this stuff slaps, and it makes the monotony of fetch quests, tailing missions, and near-death experiences more like a cinematic experience. I drive into Chinatown and have to kill far too many people with too few bullets. It's a small neighborhood, and it's squished into an already poor patch of Liberty City. I think about sitting in my coworker's apartment smoking weed. Section 8 housing. I tell him how, when I delivered pizzas, the store I worked for wouldn't accept orders from this neighborhood after dark. I flip the station and get to driving. Some guy is talking to someone else. I can't tell if he's mocking them or genuinely a dumbass. And then I realize that's not the point. It doesn't matter. I'm listening to
them. And so it's not actually a form of music. It's a form of rhythmic speaking.
Honestly, who gives a shit?
I'm listening to
segment we do where we sit down and we actually had Daniel for 40 minutes and telling to slash our tires.
Can't speak to this. I'm on the clock.
My favorite baristas. They were so great, they even went out of their way to refer to Z by Shim's biological gender.
I'm listening to the people given authority, who are given platforms and legitimized by those platforms. I'm listening to a piece of art made to be satire and realizing that satire is dead. And America killed it.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fiverr ran from ecological disaster to find a new warrant to live and found terror instead. I ran from a flipped prison transport convoy, attacked to free someone bigger and more important than me, leaving me on a bridge with the cops coming fast and nowhere to go. If I follow the train of thought that says to just sit tight and wait, that the cops will understand why I didn't run, I only see the clamping jaws of a bear trap slamming down around my neck. I never was given a choice. Death as inspiration. Run from the end of the world to find hope. I wonder if in 30 years Liberty City will be underwater. I think this as I round a corner and smash into another fucking car because the switch port of this game is absolute garbage. God.
Possibly. All right, then let me ask you this.
The image of New York flooded from that Jacob Geller video lives in my head, and I swear I can see the Liberty City Chinatown in there. I swear I can see my friend's apartment. I think about Bo Burnham singing, "The whole world at your fingertips, the ocean at your door." I'm a rabbit in these Liberty City streets. And to the cops and the people of Liberty City, my deaths are justified. Each and every time I'm gunned down, it's cheered. Every time I'm arrested, fined, and released, it's with joy of purpose. I can't get a job. I can't start a family. I don't have the choice to go back to school. I crime because I have to. I am criminal. I am a rabbit. And the world was designed to kill me. In March or April of 2020, the city of Chicago and I marched down Lakeshore Drive, following the charismatic calls of a black woman. We sat at the intersection of Chicago and Lakeshore, and she sang a song. Then we marched to Michigan Avenue, where the storefronts were all boarded up and the only people on the street were there for the same reason. The cops drove their cars to kettle the lot of us towards the bridge that crosses the river. They parked at each intersection and more cops poured in on foot to continue the push. They had been doing this song and dance for hours, blocking some streets, giving others up, but it was getting close to 5 p.m. and the sausage was getting spicy. They kettled us towards the bridge, and when we got to it, ready to cross it back to where we had started long ago, they raised it, creating a wall in our faces. The stretch of road leading up to the bridge had no branching paths. Their cars were parked at the nearest intersection, and despite our numbers, the cops had batons, spray, gas, and always at the back of our minds, cocked and loaded, were their guns. Once the bridge was raised, they sent in the cavalry. Literally, cops on horseback. I remembered all those tweets about how to subdue cop horses, and all the quote retweets about that and how it was a stupid idea, and all the quote retweets of those quote retweets asking for actual solutions, and the replies to all of those boiling down to "don't get in the way of a fucking charging horse." We were rabbits in that Chicago street, and the hounds bared their fangs. In the end, Fiverr finds a new Warren. In Liberty City, I cross the bridge and meet new people who give me the same jobs, only more dangerous. I make more money. I defeat my foes. I buy a new house. But I always think about Fiverr. I'll always be a rabbit. The Destiny 2 video was released September 26, 2023. This is my personal favorite video I've ever done. I think it's perfect. I don't think it should be shorter. In fact, I wish I could do like a whole 2-hour video on just Destiny and my thoughts while playing it, because I think it is a beautiful game. It is one of the most beautiful science fantasy worlds I've seen in a video game, and it is also one of the messiest games. I think anybody who's played it would agree. It is one of the messiest games I've ever played, and it is definitely the messiest game I've ever become addicted to. After 4 a.m., I realized that Destiny 2 has won again. Bungie are a known entity in the industry, built entirely on their artistic domination of game feel, which to define is literally how the game feels when you play it. The way the guns shoot, the way you move, how easily the inputs worm their way into your brain to become muscle memory. The way a controller can become an extension of you, lessening the gap between the game and your mind. If I could press my face into the screen, I could maybe get Destiny deeper into my body. But until then, this is as close as it gets. It's 4 a.m. and Destiny is making me feel like a teenager again, staying up far too late playing Halo 2 and Halo 3 and Call of Duty. And I'm thinking about my mom, oddly enough, and how she was certain, in a way that only she could be, that I was constantly getting, like, stoned or drunk, like, all the time, regardless of any evidence to the contrary. I remember being impatient about it, And one day she sat me down and opened the Pandora's box of family problems to reveal that almost everyone in her extended family struggled with addiction. She figured it was only likely that I, too, would suffer the same fate. I don't know why I'm thinking about that, though. It couldn't be relevant. I enter the crucible, pushing beyond the limits of tonight and well into tomorrow. I slide, double jump, slap a grenade down, and fry the fool who followed me towards the control point. I hold the point from a vantage, pecking at the faces of every guardian that walks my way. When the radar blinks a threat, I swap to the shotgun, triple jump, and come down with the standard shoot and melee for a kill. Nothing shoots better than a Bungie shooter. When we win, it feels so good. I return to orbit, go outside and smoke a cigarette, listen to the early morning. I used to wake up at this hour for my old morning shift, biking miles through Chicago streets to make it to the office and drink my first cup of coffee. Now I bike through Europa, the beautiful fields of white powder and blue skyboxes, one of the most gorgeous destinations in the game's history. I get off the bike and walk in circles to watch the footsteps. I briefly consider going to bed, but I can't. I have an exotic quest, tracking down the corpses of robots left scattered across the snow wastes. It's been a long time since I let Destiny embrace me, but this return seems to have made these exotic quests even more enticing. I don't know when they got good, but they feel like scavenger hunts now. Checklists of locations and objectives that push me across maps, into strikes, directly into unique missions, and then deep into the lost sectors. Mini dungeons that are few and far between within the world destinations. The entrances are hidden, marked only remotely on the map and teasingly in-game with the little lost sector icon painted somewhere in the vicinity of the entrance. I look for other guardians to see if they happen to be going where I'm going, but at this hour these are all the real heads of Destiny. Their guardian rank, which is a new addition to the game since my last relapse and marks the overall journey of each guardian, is higher than mine. Much higher. Their objectives are more grindy and arguably more important to them. These are the people that'll be doing the raids on day one. These are the folks with the real investment in the game, probably somewhere in the thousands of dollars. I'm only a tourist. I remember playing D1 on launch. Remember my friends dipping out one by one while I stayed, grinding patrols, grinding strikes. I started playing because of Halo, and I couldn't tell you why I kept playing after all the complaints and lackluster expansions of the first few years. Not even now, as I look back. Back then it was 2014. And right now it still feels like it as I go deeper into Destiny 2. It's like these worlds are causing me to regress. It's also 4 AM, so maybe I'm just getting in a little too deep. Return to orbit. Go outside, smoke another cigarette. Listen to the sounds of space rocks bouncing off my windshield. Mess with gear. Remark that I don't have any pretty helmets, and I really want pretty helmets. Even more so than a higher light score, though I want more light too. Light is sort of like a DBZ power level, and Vegeta would think mine puny. It's a little silly what a few numbers will make me do. I get a new cloak for my hunter that's uglier than the one I'm wearing, but it's a few numbers higher. And in that moment, it is the hardest conundrum of my life. Do I want to be pretty, or do I want to be powerful? That is until I remember I can just recycle them into each other. Allow the old, pretty cloak to consume the new, powerful one, making itself more powerful. So much of my time in the menus is spent consuming like this. Quests, bounties, completions, guardian rank objectives, armor, weapons. Another cigarette, maybe. I think about all the work I have to get done tomorrow. All the work that needs done, but I don't want to do it. Then I think about my bank account and I feel the tightness of financial insecurity. I wish my avatar could consume it as well, but it would not become stronger for it. Continuing the exotic quest, I grind, gather some intel, kill a ton of Vex, the robot gremlins of the Destiny universe. Return to the tower, talk to the gunsmith, and he spits out some story, but at this point I have the dialogue audio muted. Don't get me wrong, the voice acting is great, superb even, but I'm not here for the confusing mess of a story that Destiny has been weaving since D1. I mute and I put on Harold Bloom, and I become encased in the most beautifully eerie of ambient music. The perfect soundtrack for a late night. On the tower, my normally helmeted guardian is more relaxed. I can see her face. I made her years ago, when D2 first launched, back when I was only a console baby, sitting on the floor of a friend's house while the dog licked my face and the Cabal were my biggest worry next to getting good grades on my midterms. Over the years of living and understanding myself, I've found that even when that understanding wasn't solidified like in words, it was still there. She was still there. I remember this sort of common trans egg meme about folks who play as only girl avatars and what that says about them. I know it's a meme, but it being relevant to me makes me feel like part of some kind of culture. It feels affirming in some way, even if at a distance. Shit, I forgot to take my pills. Hold on. I return to orbit only to be pulled into the final mission. I'm searching for a sword. The Lost Lament. Lament. I like that word. It feels powerful. It's an expression of grief over something that is lost. So much of Destiny 2 feels like a lament, over what it promised and what it accomplished. Its addiction to nostalgia is intoxicating at times, to a near Marvel level of cynicism. That's the power of the game, though. Even when made aware of it, even when tired of it, or even further tired of complaining about it, here it has me in its grasps once again. I wonder if there's time for another cigarette before the end. I put the controller down, go to the bathroom, wash my face. My brain is singed by 4 a.m. like the edges of burning paper. I look in the mirror and I see red eyes staring out of a pile of smoldering ash. I cannot stop myself from making the expression. And all I hear are the phantom sounds of Destiny bouncing around between my ears. It has taken my hours, and now it has taken my hearing. It's 4 a.m. and I have to admit once again, Destiny has won. The layout of the Braytech lab on Europa is a sci-fi dungeon filled with the Vex. White plastic halls descend beneath the surface of snow and ice and unimaginable pale. Large panes of glass hide experiments of metal and human intelligence. It feels like I'm exploring the city, a megastructure that expands beyond any conceivable gameplay. I regress further into the game, and I wonder if there will ever be an exit to this place. If I open the menu, will it allow me to return to orbit? I turn the corner and I find a massive canyon with platforms. Descend further into red halls. A Zardoz head artificial intelligence gives me the Lost Lament, the exotic sword at the heart of this entire scavenger hunt, and asks me to protect it. I equip it automatically, and it makes me feel very pretty, and I'm told to go to town, and it spawns hundreds of these little goblin robot Vex, and I go to town on them, I smash them, I destroy them. It replenishes my ammo far too often, and I'm able to just keep swinging, feeling the blade, finishing the quest. And at the end of it all, I feel powerful. For a moment. I return to orbit.
The Halo Reach video was released November 11th, 2022. I don't have much to say about this. It was filmed as my life was like falling apart at the time. I was getting out of a abusive relationship, and the game really spoke to me in the way that the world was sort of falling apart and people kept fighting regardless. And even just like the concept of the game itself, the fall, it's the fall of Reach. You know from the beginning that everything is doomed, and yet you still play through these missions and they're beautiful and there's amazing moments. Yeah, it really spoke to me at the time.
What does the end of the world look like? In Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Arthur Dent wakes up on any regular day to find his house is in the way of an in-progress interstate and will be demolished. His world is ending. His house will be smashed, his goods displaced, and his life uprooted. His world is ending with a bulldozer led by an unrelenting bureaucracy. Then this happens. If you were to ask fans of the Halo series circa 2009, several years after Halo 3 has come and gone, the end of the world would look like the Halo rings firing. It's your main objective for the worst mission in Halo 1. Led by the robotic caretaker of the ring, 343 Guilty Spark, you fight through hordes of zombies, find the key, and take it to the control room to fire the ring. Luckily, Cortana is there to stop you. She lets you know plain and simple that
Halo doesn't kill Flood, it kills their food.
Seeing one of these rings fire would mean the end of the world. All life wiped out to starve the Flood of its food source, leaving the universe empty. I can't deny the pull of the end of the world. Seeing an artist turn such a nebulous concept into words, color, shape, or movement tends to create good results, or at least interesting results. When Halo Reach hit the scene, there was no mistake about what was going to happen. You won't play as Master Chief, you won't escape the planet, and you won't save the world. Your destiny was alluded to years ago in the first Halo novel, The Fall of Reach. Not only does the book by Eric Noland detail the rise of the Spartan II program, but it details why, counterinsurgency, and how, kidnapping and experimenting on children. We follow John 117, Master Chief, into super soldierdom, and into a full-on assault with the Covenant, on Reach. It's in this book that we learn what it means for the Covenant to glass a planet. Halopedia calls glassing the process by which Covenant ships bombard a planet from orbit using heavy plasma weaponry. The superheated plasma melts human colonies, bodies, and land masses into molten liquid, which hardens into a glass-like substance. The surface of planets left as little more than a spherical, smudged, and broken mirror. My 12-year-old brain thought this was the most wicked thing in the world. Step aside, Larry Niven. Climb into the grave, Orison Scott Card. Your thousands of words about sci-fi tech and worlds and aliens that are near eldritch are nothing compared to the might of a Covenant fleet, sitting still in the vastness of space, melting a planet into glass. We know what the end of the world looks like now, but how long does it take? How long would it take your world to end? My brain likes to think in broad dramatics and has been known to think my entire world was collapsing around me. It's happened several times. I thought this when I was 9 years old and was forcefully moved away from my hometown. That didn't take long, though. In my memory, it exists as a conversation and then we were moved. But perhaps that's just memory's way of condensing a thing and making time irrelevant. I'm sure if you think hard enough, you can think of a moment when your world ended. How long did that take? A few minutes? An hour? Or did it happen slowly? On January 15th, 2009, at exactly 12:25 a.m., Vociferous over on the Ascendant Justice blog posted Unworlding. In it, the Forerunner main character has just activated the Ark, beginning the process of annihilation. For him, it would be nice for it to be over in the blink of an eye. Had his own will governed the next few moments, he easily would have leapt from the edge of the platform and fallen far below. But it's not. He will not die with the end of the world. His fate is maybe worse. To Vociferous, the world ended in 1,500 words. The Covenant invaded Reach in July 2552. The glassing of Reach ended September 27th that same year. Halo Reach is a video game where we know the world will end, and it will not end with a bang. It takes time. And despite my love of glassing, I had doubts that Reach would be worth the effort. If you think about it, they spoiled it with the book. When you know the world is going to end, and you know exactly how long, what's even the point? It's 2022 and I'm playing Halo Reach again. The first thing I noticed is how beautiful it is. I get goosebumps at the cinematics. I'm getting goosebumps right now just reading the lines in the script I wrote. I think about the end of the world and I wonder why Bungie made it so beautiful. It's not just a judgment on my part either. The leap from Halo 3's photography to Halo Reach's is astounding. The camera work, the framing, the colors. Halo Reach is filmic in a way that most games, let alone other Halos, fail to even glimpse. Far before the new God of War and far before Metal Gear Solid 5, Halo Reach was making a film. This is Halo as directed by Hideo Kojima, with handheld cameras following Noble Team like a documentary. We are watching the story of the fall of Reach. We are playing through the war film made about the Spartans that died on that planet, about the countless lives lost to the Covenant. Even with this sort of documentary camera work, the game doesn't follow any sort of propaganda angle with its writing. Halo Reach is a tragedy in the classical sense. The team at Bungie use our own knowledge of Reach to make us part of the story, to give it dramatic irony, like a Shakespearean work. Early on, there's a moment where George shows kindness to a woman who has just lost her father, and I can't help but think, what does it matter? She's going to die soon anyways. To my surprise, the different characters echoed my sentiments. Emil always thinks kindness is unnecessary. Kat is always digging where she shouldn't be, and the captain is always under the gun. His world is always ending, it seems. Halo Reach thrives in its deep breaths. The action is good, what you'd expect from a Halo, but what holds more weight are the moments in between, when we see the planet, when no one is talking and we're just looking. These moments are Halo as directed by Yasujiro Ozu. Time is all that matters when the world is ending. In Tokyo Story, Ozu cuts to a vase to show, well, many things, as Nerdwriter might point out. But literally, he cuts to it to show the passage of time. Time is all that matters when the world is ending. So when Reach cuts to the landscape, that's the game turning to me to say, just wait a little while longer before it's all gone. The tragedy of Halo Reach is that fighting is not enough, that there are truly some things that just destroy you and you cannot push them back. The younger me probably didn't get it when I first played the game. That younger me had the fighting spirit, but now, older, wiser, I see this game and nod my head solemnly, remembering times I fought for something, only for it to be a worthless endeavor. There was a position at Polygon that I stressed over and worked really hard on my video on. There was the relationship that never should have happened in the first place. So many other tiny little battles. And the beauty of Halo Reach is that it doesn't condemn that fighting. In fact, Halo Reach dares to say that the fighting matters. Halo Reach kills your friends, throws you out of a ship in orbit, bombards you with a crew of Covenant ships ready to glass the planet, and says, but isn't it such a beautiful fall? The choice to fight in face of it all is noble. It's the beauty in the tragedy. Beyond George's self-sacrifice, everyone else dies a dog's death. Kat is shot through by a sniper. Emil is stabbed repeatedly by Covenant elites. The captain is shot and crashes his ship into one of many scarabs, hardly making an impact. It's sad. Like, it's hard to say anything other than it's sad. Sometimes it's so anticlimactic that it just feels flat, but it's the point. There's no guarantee that what Noble Team is doing will lead to anything. We know that Reach will be glassed. We know the ending. We know the time frame. The team at Bungie knew all of this as well. Noble Team, though, they do not. And it's in that where you see
No, somebody tell me this ain't happening.
UNSC frigate Grafton. Do you copy?
Grafton is dust. We need to get out of here now.
That's one of my favorite moments of Halo Reach, but my favorite mission is Exodus. It's when the entire planet gets the picture and realizes evacuation is the best option. The Covenant are invading full force, sending in brute squads, whose only mission in all of this is to ransack every human building they land on and torture everyone they get their hands on. It's my favorite mission because it captures the mood perfectly. There are pockets of tragedy where bodies are strewn across the ground, a landscape of bloody civilians. There are pockets of horror where the kamikaze grunts turn the tight hallways into a different kind of hell, edging closer to Resident Evil. This is Halo as directed by Shinji Mikami. Another one of my favorite moments comes in the mission directly after Exodus. It's one of those images that will live with me forever, glassed into the ridges of my brain. It was the image young me was hoping to see when they read Fall of Reach for the first time. The image of a world ending. What is the purpose of filming the end of the world? What is the purpose of writing it? The purpose of playing it and navigating it? What am I doing when I watch this, or when I play Reach, or when I write this script? I feel a dearth between that question and whatever the answer may be. Just this wide canyon of blackness where purposelessness lies, where the act is all that matters. The act of watching, writing, playing. It's 2022, and I'm playing Halo Reach again. It's been several months since I wrote that first paragraph of this script, and I'm going through a rough time. My life as I know it has just ended, just as I turned 30. My world is being glassed into molten, malleable magma. It will ooze and shift and solidify. It will be burned and scarred, made different, unconquered but defeated. I'm playing Halo Reach to pass the time till the magma cools and I can walk its surface again. I'm playing Halo Reach simply because. It's beautiful, yes. The music is lovely, of course. Some of the best in the business. The gameplay is good as expected from Halo. The world is ending, just as written many years ago. And I am in the gulf in between, waiting for the new world to begin. The Shadow of the Colossus video was released July 12th, 2024. One of my most recent videos. It was a huge video for me, like emotionally and like writerly, artistically, I guess, because I was trying to capture this very specific feeling that I've had since I was like a teenager and I first played this game, and continued to have and like revisit that feeling every time I would replay it, because I've replayed this game more than any other game ever. And like usually when I sit down to play it, that means going through, you know, it like 3 or 4 times in a row. It's just a very special game to me, and I think I was able to capture that feeling. I do wish the video was a bit shorter. That's my complaint with most of my videos, is I think I'm a bit long-winded sometimes. I think that's just how I write, though. They killed them. They were killers. The two of them, standing behind the old baseball diamond, smoking cigarettes and drinking warm beer stolen from their stepfather's fridge. They shared a plastic bat between them, taking turns to swing at fireflies dancing around. When they'd hit, the incandescent bugs would explode, and whatever science let them glow allowed them to keep glowing, smearing on the plastic in streaks of nightlight, or falling to the grass like shooting stars. Swish, thunk. The sound of the bat. Swish, thunk. Another comet streaking through their little atmosphere. They were older, the two of them, built like giants of eons past. Even with the dainty plastic bat, they swung it with the heft of a lead pipe. Swish, thunk. It was their unspoken ritual to hold the killing until the sun went down, They'd stand by the dugout with me, they'd crush their cans, litter the field, and choke up on the bat. Swish, thunk. They cheered, and the bugs never cared. They would never run or hide, never fly fast to dodge, only float through space, waiting their turn to die. Jared, the eldest, held out a pack of Newports, long, and I shook my head. The other offered me a beer, and I refused. I didn't want to tell them that my mom would be mad if she found out, but I did. They offered me the bat. "Well, you have to take one," they said, lips straight, shoulders back. Beer, bat, or smoke. So I took the bat. The plastic felt heavier than the aluminum in my bag, slung over my shoulder. It was yellow and stained with orange and green. Chris, the youngest of the two, took my bat bag from my shoulder and emptied the contents in the infield dirt. My gum, my bat, my balls, all fell out and rolled away. It was not my stuff anymore. He picked up the bat and gripped it, hands creaking and cracking, and then he swung it, and I felt the wind of it against my face. A lightning bug exploded, and he chuckled. Didn't see the bugger, killing without even wanting to. "You ever hit anything with this bat?" "I hit a home run once." "No," he said. "Something living. A bug. A bird. Your neighbor's cat." I shook my head. "What about the ground? You ever slam this hunk of shit on the ground? You know it's living too, right? The grass, the dirt, all the worms that crawl through that shit and eat dead bodies. You ever get mad and just hit the ground?" I stared down, the plastic bat on my shoulder, and saw an earthworm crawl onto my cleat. "What about this tree? You won't kill it. It's just a bat." The tree was a big old oak, like my grandpa, I thought. He hit it, his face alight with color and his knuckles stretched white. His entire body went with the swing, just like my coach had always said. Bend the knees, turn at the hips, and follow through. Each thwack of the bat was like a foul ball because he kept swinging and swinging. The bark chipped off in big flakes, revealing a soggy underbelly. An entire colony of termites smashed like wet meat. An ant farm demolished like flesh. The wind moaned through the limbs and leaves, and I could not stop thinking about my grandpa. But he was right. He didn't kill it. It was just a bat, not an axe. But afterward, as he tossed the bat to the ground and we started the walk back to their house, the moonlight at our back, I thought about the wreckage left behind, and how the bruise in the tree wouldn't heal, just scar. And I realized there were worse things than death. Jared's room was dark, lit only by the muzzle flash of the submachine gun in Resident Evil 4. We all sat on his waterbed, bare arms touching, trying to keep quiet so his stepdad wouldn't hear us from the living room. I was 13. "Got a new game," Jared said. Shadow of the Colossus, the game we'd all been waiting to play. Wander crosses the bridge into the Forgotten Lands, and I can feel it embedding into me. My foundation still wet and malleable and beginning to take shape as the temple impresses itself into my body. The intensely bloomed sun burning me. The horse and the girl becoming integral to my entirety. For the next 19 years, I'd return to the Forgotten Lands. I would live in it for more years than I'd live in any other one place. And even now, as I'm a year into my transition, I can feel the dust of it caked on my hands, rubbing off on my lived experiences and favorite art, like blood. The amalgamation of voices tells us what we must do, and we follow the piercing light across the field and into the tight cul-de-sac of a canyon. We scale the ruins and lose control. We see it, the first Colossus. Valus's mighty hooves crack the earth with each step as he meanders through this small rocky cage. We kill him, mercilessly, with malice We asked no questions, had no second thoughts, felt no trepidation. We climb his mass, leaping from stone armor to fur, and plunge our sword into his head. As his body collapses, we fall in love with the beauty of its violence, the scale of its destruction. The choir laments as black tendrils crawl from the corpse of the Colossus. We jeer as our body is impaled by them, embedding into us, into me, and I can't help but think it's real, that this darkness is stabbing into me, digging a burr into my chest, turning it black. I say nothing, afraid to make a noise. Sometime after midnight, the Doritos empty and the rest of the house silent. I shoot Koromori's leg and it plummets, smashing into the ground. I plunge from 3 stories up and drive a blade deep into its abdomen. We kill them. We kill them all 16 of them. The blackness engulfs us for the last time and we are enthralled by our new monstrous form. We smash everything. The robed figures flee, firing arrows at us from a distance. We are gripping each other, trying to remain quiet in the small room. But the beast is hard to control. We keep getting shot, and eventually we go down. I realize then that I'm cold on the bed. The only warmth is where our shoulders touch. I'm wedged between these older boys, and we are leaned in, pulled into the glow of the CRT. The robed figures flee across the bridge and collapse it, trapping us there forever. If it's even possible to continue to exist in these lands, the robed figure says, one day, perhaps you will make atonement for what you've done. And I think about the tree. I feel the thunk of the bat. The girl awakens. She finds a baby and climbs the temple. At the top of the temple is a secret garden. A deer, flowing water, birds, life. The end. We go out to the backyard so they can smoke and talk about the Colossi in more than hushed whispers. The fireflies dance around us, and all I can think about is the girl trapped at the top of the temple. Forever. We continue into the night. We want to climb the temple, so we kill them again and again. Time and time again we become monstrous, watch ourselves die, watch the bridge collapse, become trapped. I don't know how long we've been there or how many times we've slept or if this time is stretched throughout my entire life. Each playthrough existing then and now and there and everywhere, a series of connected dots in a timeline squished flat, spatial memory made manifest. Either way, I'm sweating as I return to Valis again, but in my haste I forget he's already been killed this playthrough. I climb through the stuttering pixels, cross the field through a twisting canyon, over the barricades. When I reach his domain, the game remembers me. Valis is nothing but a pile of earth. Bits of stone poking out, roots taking hold in his hip and chest, eyes nothing but hollowed out sockets, his corpse a rotting landmark, a melancholic mausoleum. My chest itches as the burr scrapes against my ribs. I think about the tree. Swish, thunk. I know that if I crawled into Valis, there would be a colony of termites, an entire host of ants, a layer of flesh. Swish, thunk. I think about my grandpa, his old body hanging onto the edge of his pickup truck, crying as he knows he's going away. He can't look at me. I want to hug him, but it hurts too much. Swish, thunk. I'm rubbing my eyes because it's so dark and I'm so tired and I feel so small. Swish, thunk. The corpse of the Colossus begs me to crawl in, to do it again, plunge the sword into his head. I killed them. I'm a killer. I do it again and again as the dark of the room swallows me. I watch them fall, watch them decay. I do it until I'm able to climb the temple, up and up and up, so high up. The image of the girl trapped up top is the only thing keeping me going. The life, the dough, the water, the end. The bridge is not collapsed. I can take her and we can run away. We can escape before we become trapped. But when I cross the bridge, the game refuses. The game remembers what I've done, and it will not let me leave the Forgotten Lands. I climb the remainder of the temple to find her up in the secret garden, but she is not there. It's only me, and I'm surrounded by fireflies.
The Last Guardian video was released October 30th, 2020. This one is hard for me to watch for several reasons. The first being that it's old, and I don't think I had really nailed my nonfiction essay voice very well. I think it's a bit too long-winded. It's also a little messy, I think, in like its writing. But it's also hard for me to watch because like I say in the video, a lot of those pets are no longer in my life. I have the tattoos on my knuckles are for the dog that I talk about for a lot of the video. So I think like along with this video essay, the game itself is like something that it's really hard for me to revisit, and I don't know if I will ever play The Last Guardian again. And part of that is because I know I will have thoughts, and I don't know if I'm ready to write about that yet. The dog creeped up on me, silently. And I was 5 or 6, so rather small. And when I turned around, my face was hugging against the chest of this broad beast that I didn't know was there, on the count of it being silent. And like I said, I was only 5 or 6, so I panicked, seized by this giant's hand of electricity, and I turned and ran, like a 5 or 6-year-old would. So the dog chased after me, like a big, scary dog would. And I don't know if it bit me, but the next thing I knew was that it was on top of me. And it's a big dog, so it's got me, a 5 or 6-year-old, pinned down, and there's nothing I can really do about it but scream and probably cry a little bit because I'm terrified. I'm just a little kid, and despite the 2 decades between then and now, I still remember the shock. I'm playing The Last Guardian, and that dog is all I see chained up in the cave. A mystery, terrifying, and I don't know what patience this kid was given, but I know that 5 or 6-year-old me would not have pulled those spears out. He would have just cried and screamed and probably ran away. But I have distance now, so I can look at that dog, see it snarl, and know that we need each other to escape. My vault is easier to get to the older I get, so it's not a problem to take things back there and just put them away for a while. Playing a good video game is like following the sidewalk to where you swore it ended, and instead finding out that the path is just invisible, and you must tread careful with each footstep, testing the edges and boundaries of this walk, hoping that the trust you have in yourself is enough to not be tripped or dropped over the edge. Because you don't want to go down there. You just want to glance at it, smell it, perhaps taste it if you're feeling courageous, and then be sloped back round to sure footing, unscathed. But this cave is down off the sidewalk for me, and it's really hard not to be falling already. Looking up from here at the gleaming tower at the center of this place, I am weak and, like Trico, wingless, unable to lift myself above my footing. And sure enough, the path above is vanishing. Such a quick descent. I think about Trico storming into the village, and instead I lay in the bed. And I am eaten. And I am spit out into darkness. Somewhere in the ruins, Trico changes. I am climbing on them and pointing, shouting, begging for them to do this one simple task for me. My controller is not broken, but I swear it has to be, because this big, lumbering jerk is ignoring me. Like, on purpose, ignoring me. Trico is glancing around when I call their name as if to say, "Who, me?" And it's like, yes, you're the only one here besides me. Don't you want to eat? Just climb up the wall already. And in the outburst, I leap off and turn back to find a cat there, instead of that vicious dog. A soft, chubby kitty. My kitty, in fact. Blue. I'm somehow still on the car ride back from Texas with her in the back seat and my partner driving, the first time I met her. And she climbs up on my chest and rubs her entire body against my face, getting one of her cat hairs stuck under my eyelid, and in seconds my eye is itching and swollen and red and irritated. Not only that though, but when we stop the car to let her eat, she won't eat because, of course, she's absolutely terrified. She's being taken nearly 16 hours by car, and she's just scared. She can't eat. I'm itching my eye constantly, and the thought climbs into my head that, what if she never eats again? What if I'm hurting her by doing this? I just met this cat, and yes, I'm older than that scared 5 or 6-year-old, but I've never had a cat before. Yet I feel this deep need to take care of her. There's no other words for it. I love her. And now I'm petting Trico, my hands running through the fur and feathers. I'm the boy on the screen, and I'm trying to soothe my terrified cat. I'm scared down here off the path. But you're scared too. We're both scared, together. It's going to be okay, buddy, I say to myself. Just please climb this damn wall. Let's get you some food. In this moment of liminality, my previous memories are being rewritten, and instead of that vicious dog lying in the cave in the dark, it's Blue, and she's sick. She can't eat because her gums are inflamed, and she's sleeping all day, hiding in her little hidey hole, and she drools the most disgusting drool, and I'm again so afraid that I'm hurting her. My partner and I don't know what to do, and the vet says that she needs all of her teeth removed, and that's alright. She can survive and live a really good life like that. She won't be in pain anymore, and she can eat soft food. But the problem is that the procedure is going to cost nearly $1,600, and we don't have that money. We don't even have $100. I haven't had savings in years. That's just how life is. So we feel hopeless about the whole thing. But Blue, damn it, she is worth more than anything. She is worth debt and stress. So we stop, like everything. We stay in, we go to work, we eat as little as possible, and we pile my partner's tips into a drawer and keep counting it until the day that it's enough. I'm in the cave and I'm pulling the spears out of Blue because I want her to be okay, and I need her as much as she needs me. And like that, the memory is new and good, and Trico is growing on me like a warm, sticky moss. Trico's eyes vibrate and glow iridescent, pulsing to some unseen rhythm, and he's back. That dog is back, and he's pinning me down again, and I'm small and terrified. I'm again afraid of dogs in that way I was when I was a child, and even as a teenager, and even as a young adult. Their mere presence would spike my anxiety and put me on edge. I was never comfortable around them, always afraid that they would bark or bite. I'm remembering the time my aunt's dog broke out of their fence and chased me around the outside of the house. I ran to my mom's car and tried to leap in and shut the door behind me, but the dog bit me. It was attacking me, and it was a fear come to life. And the kicker was that no one took it seriously, because it was just a dog. I was terrified and bleeding, and the people who were supposed to protect me were shaming me for it. Trico attacks me too, and I realize I can't trust them. I'm just a scared kid, and this beast can turn on me at the drop of a hat. I wake up and continue the game. We face more challenges, and I'm numb to it all. Sure, the thing is cute sometimes, but this is a game. And the next room, or the room after that, or the room after that, there will be another bout of hypnosis, and Trico will attack me again. I've seen the stunt the game is pulling on me, and it won't do it again. Fool me once, fool me twice, and all that jazz. We reach a point in this massive structure where stained glass eyes become an obstacle. Trico is afraid of them for some reason. Won't even approach them. Even when destroyed, Trico sniffs them with caution. And as they sniff, they change. Trico is no longer the amalgamation of my aunt's dog and that dog from when I was just 5 or 6. They are instead Zeus, a German Shepherd / Husky mix, the runt of his litter. He's a big boy, and despite his size, he's riddled with anxiety. When he was left alone in the house, he would panic and try to burrow through the carpet and into the basement. When it thundered, he'd whimper and hide under the nearest table. The biggest, sweetest baby alive. There was a period of time in college where I was going through it, to say the least. Depressed and without console. I came to visit over winter break and spent most of it curled up on a lazy boy, a PS4 controller in my lap, playing The Last Guardian for the first time, barely eating, worrying everyone, worrying myself. My recent romance ended horribly in embarrassment and shame. I felt abandoned and anxious, but on one of those nights, Zeus climbed up onto the chair, again despite his size, and cuddled up against me. He was warm and calm, and I don't know, but I feel like he was protecting me. It was like he understood. He could feel the things I was feeling and related to them. And I can't say I didn't relate to him and his anxiety. I understood it all too well. Over the course of that winter break, Zeus showed me that I loved dogs. Zeus was the dog that showed me that I loved animals. Hell, after that break, I considered changing majors despite how far into mine I already was, just so I could become an animal doctor. He created this welling emotion inside of me that was reacting to anything involving animals at that point. An empathy that was previously frozen over. So when I push those stained glass eyes over ledges, I do it for Zeus. When I smash them with stone helmets, I do it for Zeus. When those statue folks attack, I charge and shove them over every time I can for Zeus. And when the platforms begin to break from under me, and I have nowhere to go, I jump towards Zeus. I do it because he was all I had then. And the wild thing is, he catches me. Every single time, he catches me. Every time Zeus sweeps his claws and crushes an enemy, the fear inside of me is being squashed and replaced with something softer. I relish the moments I can pull a spear from Trico's side and pet them until they calm down. I pet that giant creature so much at every opportunity because it's my dog and I love him so much.
From there on, the climb out becomes our climb. It's more treacherous, but I feel safer. We have each other in this horrible place, and god damn it, that means something. The winter break taught me that. When our tower collapses, I white-knuckle the controller in fear because it's a video game, and at any moment Zeus, Trico, could be taken from me. We could be separated, or worse, and that scares me. The fear is still alive inside of me, but it's mutated. No longer is it primed inside of Trico, but it lives inside of another. That armored creature. My childhood terror crawled out of my head and into the screen as this other beast with the glowing, pulsating eyes. And it attacks me, just like before. Trico and I fall down, 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 and when I awake in the tree, I struggle harder than any game has ever made me struggle. But Trico saves me. That other creature is still out there, but I have Trico. I have Zeus. And I still have Blue, my little kitty cat. She's still hungry and she still needs me. She seeks comfort in the crook of my lap, and I hold her. I would do anything to protect her. No matter how annoying she gets when she's hungry. No matter how scared I got when she was sick, or how much money it cost to help her. We saved that money and got her the surgery, and now she's the happiest and most annoying she's ever been. And I love her with everything inside me. Playing a good video game is like following the sidewalk to where you swore it ended, and instead finding out that the path is just invisible, and you must tread careful with each footstep, testing the edges and boundaries of this walk, hoping that the trust you have in yourself is enough to not be tripped or dropped over the edge. And The Last Guardian did something special. It pushed me over the edge so that Trico could catch me, so that Zeus could catch me, so that Blue could catch me. While I play the rest of the game, I see them in every move Trico makes. I am able to face down the beast that is my old fear and no longer be dragged through the wormhole to those times. And when I replay the game, I can face them again and again, each time with further strengthened ties to both Blue and Zeus. Every time I play the game, it will be a new, more personal Trico. The Last Guardian makes me feel love, with a capital L. And for me, that can't be said about any other game. And even though I don't like to think about it, The Last Guardian has another gift to give me. Because one day, no matter how much I don't want it to happen, Zeus, well, he'll pass on. Blue too will one day be gone from my life. But when that day comes, I can replay The Last Guardian again and be with them for one last adventure. I can remember them again and live the game anew.
The Inside video was released September 8th, 2021. This video should just be shorter. I did a lot of experimenting in this one, like film experimenting with like talking directly to the camera, with filming myself playing the game. This is stuff that I've been wanting to do for a while and would love to keep doing. My degree is in filmmaking, even if some of these videos don't make that very obvious. It's just something that takes a lot of time to do. And when you're already doing like creative work full time, it's kind of hard to also stack another like full-time endeavor on top of that. This video is a little weird for me to revisit because like I was in that abusive relationship at the time, and even though during like while playing Inside I sort of realized some things about myself gender-wise, I was unable to express or explore those things. This video has me with a beard, and that's very weird for me. Overall, I think it's a really good video. I do wish it was shorter, but I hope you enjoy it.
I didn't know when I started playing Inside that it took place in the woods behind the sewage treatment plant. The one I lived by when I rented the trailer and traded roommates frequently, sometime between college tries. Not until I found the tree we carved our initials into after a bender of Fireball and Jaeger bombs. The bark rough and our knives dull. A couple of good old country boys doing what we did back then when we didn't have the gas to drive the gravel roads and yell at the deer. It's my partner's typing that reminds me that I'm not there. Like they're typing directly into my brain. There are years between then and now, you silly fool. And the low sounds of nighttime in Chicago are squealing behind the window. That orange glow of the city, like a CRT screen behind my eyes. I'm not there. Even if that cold, wet smell of sewage will always crawl into my sinuses. Like the strangest form of synesthesia being mistaken for memory. The woods are so familiar, and the sensation of mud filling my holey shoes as I stomp through puddles is like a form of time travel. The sense of fear is immediate and palpable with the foggy air. I hide behind a tree trunk as men with flashlights search for me. My friends are lying in the grass next to me, while the hunter who owns the land calls out for us. The anachronisms of the game open this wormhole further. A fridge standing alone on a dirt path, a parachute or some tangle of wires caught in the forked limbs of a tree. Strange devices with no connection to the woods or reality. The woods behind the sewage treatment plant used to be for mining. Our entire town was built for that purpose, making it as close to a ghost town as you can get without the majority of the population being literal ghosts. But instead, entire places abandoned, and maybe, luckily, repurposed into something that the modern day considers useful. The path I walk is an old mining trail, with the rails torn up and anything of use pulled from the surrounding woods and sold by someone to make them very rich. To our right is an abandoned crane. To our left, an old mining funnel filled in with water. A pit so deep and stagnant that it begs the question, what could be down there? The many answers to that question bounce around my head to this day, making more noise now as I try to remember that I'm not there. There may be trees out my window, but they are owned by a city. Out there are no holes that descend inevitable into the earth. When they sick the dogs on us, I feel the helplessness of pedaling my one-speed bike down the pavement towards Heath's house, situated in the furthest back corner of the town. I'm younger then, but still heavy and sweating as the black dog barks and gains on me. Its teeth sink into my jeans, making more holes to join the ones at my knees. This dog will kill me. This I know. So I pedal, and the dog gets me. It grabs my head in its mouth and it shakes, and I die, just as I feared I would as a child. It's horrifying for just the moment, like a flash of grease fire in the pan, so bright and sharp that the smell sinks back into my brain and I am there again. My partner stands from their desk, kisses me on the top of the head, and mouths, "I'm going to bed." Since I have my headphones on, I can't hear them. I smile, and they leave, turning the kitchen light off and cutting half of the apartment off from my half, more like a quarter illuminated by only the gray glow of my monitor. It feels like winter, and I remember when we snuck onto abandoned farmland and controlled fellow humans with a strange device hanging from the No, wait, that was the game. That didn't happen. But I swear the people standing adjacent to me on that parallax background, they look familiar. The Midwest sky is blooming with a storm on the horizon, gray clouds with a slash of yellow sun, and all the people are lined up for the factory job. That's why it feels like winter. It's summer right now as I type this, but then, at the job, we all lined up in the snow and the cold wind just to get a cigarette on break. It feels like winter, but it isn't. Those people look like coworkers, but they're faceless blobs. I get a snack and pour myself a little glass of whiskey, and when I come back to the game, I'm in Chicago again, with just a small memory, climbing the condemned building and looking out across the west side. We had our cameras, but we weren't snapping shots. We were just looking. The lines of people marching through obelisks of light. Despite the oppressive ambiance, this moment is serene, beautiful even. But then we go deeper and I realize the hallway of my apartment has disappeared. Without the light on, it's just an abyss of negative space that my brain can fill. There could be someone standing there. There could be doors that lead to somewhere else. There could be a man standing there, and I wouldn't hear his breathing because of my headphones. There could be weak floorboards that crack when I stop and that take me. I'm having an out-of-body experience.
Disassociating.
Suddenly, I'm not only the character again, but I'm being forced to perform.
As a boy.
I am performing under a spotlight that only aims at me, that doesn't notice others around me, and if I mess up pretending to be a boy,
it will kill me on the spot.
The controller changes shape in my clammy hands and is impossible to hold.
I imagine what it looks like from that dark spot that used to be a hallway.
How am I performing now? When we get to the dogs, they aren't convinced. And of course they wouldn't be. They're primal. They can smell that I'm not that boy. The stench of the sewage treatment plant is so strong that no amount of performance can protect me from them. So I run, but this time they catch me and snap my neck with a brutal bite, and they dine on the muscles. The camera, it holds there for what feels like much longer than the other deaths. Or maybe I'm just slowing time. To escape all this, I have to control my friend who sits slumped above me in a nondescript work attire. I manipulate him with some kind of magic, and it's so strange because through him I can also manipulate others. It's like everyone in this world either wants to kill me or has had their soul sucked from them, leaving only a lifeless husk. A large factory moved into the woods, built a city, and is controlling all its citizens to be worker thralls. Some are kept in cages even, watched under intense spotlight. Sometimes I run past a group of them and overhear a conversation that we had back in the factory. These conversations are sprinkling on me as the warehouse grows larger. Every time I think I'm reaching the underbelly, I keep going deeper. And there's always a dog. I'm never not running from these dogs. Their barks are so intense and hungry, and I can't perform. It feels inescapable. I don't even know where I'm going. Seriously, where am I going? Where? I've got to stand up for a minute. My whiskey is empty, my snack gone. But I look and it's too dark in the hallway. The shadow has reached out and swallowed the kitchen, and now all that's left is my little corner of computer light. I don't know who is standing there, but I can feel them like a pair of eyes just behind my vision. Hair black and long and flowing like water. I can see her in the game too. I don't know why, but I recognize her. I stand up from my chair because she begins to chase me. She will crack open my little pod and drown me without a second thought. She is so mad at me for existing here, for being in this place, so far down in that factory that a forest begins to grow. So far down that we're flooded and in danger. And she lives down here. Why does she live so far down? Who put her here? I flee and wash up on a shore, a sandy beach far below ground. It feels like the shore of time in Inception, where the building blocks of my life are all laid out. A factory so big and terrifying, all my friends trapped behind bars, the shuddering heartbeat of a machine that can blow me to bits, like anxiety manifest. Near the top floor, a body lies dead on the ground, and I have to use it to open a door. It's me there. The me that didn't escape. The me that jumped. And I stand on his shoulders, looking down at him and all the other people with my face. The ones I left behind or locked away, or that stumbled a bit too far and got dragged under. It's fitting that only when I go so deep into the basement of this place that I can work with them, and we can move what couldn't be moved, jump where I couldn't jump before, and change what was not changeable. Those people aren't with me when I reach the vault door. No, it's only the girl. She's just as angry as always, trying to drown me and pull me under. All those other me's left behind, maybe they could protect me. Maybe they were protecting me, but not now. I remember the performance and wonder what could I possibly fake to get this person to leave me alone. What would I have to change to make her not hate me, for her to be happy? I swear there has to be something. I'm in my chair and my apartment only gets darker and darker with every minute, and I don't even know if my partner is still back there in that hallway or if the hallway's there, and I'm just scared. Like, honest to God, I'm just scared. And she grabs me. The game steals all control from me no matter how much I mash the buttons. The controller is disconnected from the game like my cord was unplugged and I am being drowned. I try to hold my breath for the entire scene, but I can't. Like, I'm dead. I'm totally dead. This siren has got me, and there's nothing I can do about it. Nothing I can do to make this all right. She is getting what she wants, and I have to watch. She's leaving. She's done something to me. She grabs my face and plugs something into me, and I see my face reflected back. An immensity is pressing on my chest as she leaves, as I leave, as I drown confused, falling through this water unsure. My old bedroom rests at the bottom. VHS tapes of Rugrats and Pokemon litter the floor. The bedroom I used to play pretend and make believe that I was Misty. I would look at Lil and Phil and I would be both of them in one body, sometimes more one than the other. I float all the way down there, most assuredly dead, and if this is where I am to die, then so be it. The game has shook me in so many ways that I feel so far from those woods and those dogs and that warehouse. I've been taken so far down that I've entered the other side, a proverbial underworld. And then I move. And I'm not dead. I did not drown, at least not completely. More so, now I can never drown. Because that girl with my face, she didn't want to kill me. She wasn't mad at me. She was like all the other faceless workers, lost inside this warehouse, this laboratory. A part of me buried deep and neglected, forgotten. She only pulled me all the way down here for one reason. To make me like her. To help me escape. And maybe together with all the other me's that I left behind, with all the things that were locked down here in cages, being watched, being controlled. Maybe with them and with her, we can. Hello, you made it to the end of the video. How are you doing? It'd be really funny if you left like a comment saying something like big farts or something like that, just to show that you made it this far. Also, if you're like, you fell asleep while watching this and you're dreaming, watch out for the snake that's hiding under that box. This is the end of the video experiment. I don't have anything left to say other than to talk about some of the games that I would write about if I were to do another project like this. And these are things that I've had in my head for a while that I've been sort of turning over. And the games that I would be talking about would be Signalis, Eco, Pokemon, Silver and Gold to be specific, Final Fantasy X and X2, and Red Dead Redemption 2. If that sounds cool, if you liked this video, if you want to see more long form nonfiction essay stuff like this, subscribe, join my Patreon, and just pester me about it. Like I said, the more people who like this video, the more well received it is, the more incentive I have to make more time in my schedule to do YouTube stuff. I feel like that's always been the struggle. I am an artist full-time already, making tabletop game books, but YouTube and film in general is something that I have a passion for, and it's hard to find time for that amidst running a small business. So I hope you liked the video, and I'm gonna stop recording now.